So we have found a way to SaaS everything up. So if you have some industry experience somewhere where you think you could add something, that is really fun and great. Do your research there. Do we think? I mean, Tom and I both agree on this. We don't think that you have to have industry experience to be good in SaaS. You just have to be able to learn.
Everything leads to growth with the National Association for Sales Professionals. The Leads to Growth podcast with the National Association for Sales Professionals provides in-depth discussions sharing the best sales, prospecting, influence, and communication skills, as well as sales training techniques to take your professional sales career to the next level.
All right, welcome back, y'all. We are back here with another NASP Leads to Growth podcast, and I am very excited to have some very fun guests here today, and honestly brilliant in their industries. Like, it's not always that you get like people that you really want to hang out with, and people who are also top of their game at the same time, and I think I found a nice little magic here with Thomas Boccard and Christine Rogers. Very excited to have these two amazing people here, and to give you a little bit of idea who these people are. They are leaders in your software sales industry right now. The topic of today's conversation is really going to be, where's B2B sales going these days? It seems like it's getting really, really sassy out there, y'all. And I'm seeing a lot of people going, hey, pharmaceutical sales used to be cool, but what about software sales, right? And so Christine Rogers is a seasoned sales marketing leader with over 15 years recruiting, hiring, training, managing, and high-performance sales experience. She's also the president and CEO of Aspireship, which I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself, because I just think it is really such a cool, relevant, and needed business here today. And we've also got Thomas Boccard. Thomas is the Senior Vice President of Global Data. Global Data is the gold standards and intelligence provider in the world's largest industries. And if you know anything about data in the world today, it's everybody's trying to figure out how to use it more and how to use it better. So Thomas is a forward-looking sales leader, a change champion with a history of changing organizations and transformation. The guy really sells into all Fortune 500 industries and really competitive environments. And honestly, there's a stack of acclamations or accreditations I could lead for both of these two, and huge push pins in their careers. But go check them out on LinkedIn yourself, and we'll make sure that those links are in. Today's conversation is all about software sales. It's all about sales, B2B sales, all SaaSy nowadays, y'all. Everyone is getting into software sales. Now, I get questions all the time being in at the National Association of Sales Professionals saying, hey, how do we get started? How do we get into software sales? And that's going to lead me to open with Christine. Christine, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Chris. And Tom, I'm so happy to be doing this with
you.
You know, this is
they're old friends, by the way, in case y'all didn't know already.
Always fun to talk
to
shop
mix
and
it
just talk
up
with you in general, Christine. So
I know we're gonna have a good time. Thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely, it's an honor and a pleasure, to be honest with you. Looking forward to this. Honestly, y'all, I've never been in software sales, so I'm looking forward to learning from these two as well. So, Christine, if you wouldn't mind leading us off a little bit with what you do at Aspireship and how you work
Sure.
with people like my man Thomas over here to do great things in this industry.
Yeah, so basically, I've been in software sales for the last 8-9 years in leadership, and have consistently seen amazing people come into software selling that had no experience before, that maybe had some transferable skills or had been in other industries, and always was, as a leader, having a hard time finding those individuals and being able to bring them into the organization successfully. It was kind of hit or miss. So I was always trying to figure out, what are the characteristics? What am I testing for? So we created Aspireship because we offer training and enablement. So really a course that teaches the soft and hard skills, the foundational pieces that are necessary in order to get into software selling, or a tech-enabled sale, essentially. And once you complete the course and pass the course, and one of our grads, then we will match you with companies that on the other end are less concerned with maybe the right bullet points or experience and more concerned with aptitude and attitude. Which is what we are really kind of testing for and what we teach. So that's what Aspireship does.
I love it. So if I don't have the perfect resume, if I don't have that stack with all that experience already, but I do want my skills to show through where I've got the right nuts and bolts, that's when I start with someone like you.
Sure. Yes. And so you can come and take our course, and you actually have real life, we do role plays and things so you can prepare and practice through those. And then we hand score them at the end. So we really feel confident that we're getting a good quality candidate on the other side. Beautiful.
Beautiful. I love it. And I've never seen something like this for something put together so well for a lot of the other industries people are looking to get into. So kudos on creating a smooth user experience and process.
Thank you.
Thomas, so tell us about you a little bit, friend.
Okay, I was just going to back Christine for a second there with what I love about Aspireship is because, you get a lot of people who they want to get into software sales. You think back to, you mentioned earlier, like pharma sales, and it's like generally when people go for these roles, a lot of the requirements are that you have the experience, but it's the old chicken and the egg, right? Like, how do you get the experience without having, getting the job, because you need the experience to get the job and so on. And, what I like that Aspireship, they're teaching people the sales process and the skill sets that kind of are required to be successful in SaaS. And you can say, hey, I've gone through SaaS training, even though I don't have the SaaS experience. So it helps bridge that gap for people. And, I think we'll dive into this a little bit, but I think when it comes to SaaS sales, process is such a key from that side. So from my end, to kind of, I guess, segue this to your question that I cut off to back Christine up. I came into SaaS sales in that boat. I had no experience in that. So I had previously worked at a B2B conference company for about 5 years. Prior to joining Global Data, and at that company, I had kind of rose the ranks from a delegate sales, so selling tickets basically for the show, through sponsorship sales, to then into a management and leadership role from sales. And Global Data, they brought me in because of that experience of building sales teams, new sales teams at my previous company. So starting teams from scratch, building new divisions, as well as taking over existing teams and kind of righting the ship and helping them expand and grow, from average deal sizes to team size and everything from that end. So it was a good inflection point for me to get into SaaS. It was a company that was really looking to kind of establish at the time, build out their inside sales presence in New York and build some teams out and grow them and really put a focus on new logo acquisitions. But prior to Global Data, I had no experience in subscription sales, SaaS sales, anything of that.
That's very interesting. As fortuitous as we brought both of you here on the call together, and then to hear about how Christine's major role is to find people like yourself who have those skills already that can transfer, but give them that bridge of experience, right? To bridge that gap of experience.
Yeah, and really understanding, I think the other part about this is just understanding the total business, like how the business works, how it makes money, what it does. And so I think those pieces are really important when people say, I want to be in SaaS. I'm like, do you know what that is? Do you know what it is? Because it's kind of just a way we do business. It's a way you pay. It's a way. And so understanding, I think sometimes there are, and I'm sure Tom can speak to this too, you have just like pharmaceutical sales, you have this picture in your head of what it is. And I think it's really important to have people understand as best as possible what it feels like to actually do the job. Because there are some people, like if you hire 3 teachers, for instance, that are amazing to come in to sell, that doesn't guarantee, one might do it well. The other two are like, ew, that's not for me at all.
Sure.
So it's really important for them to both understand kind of what this business is, how it makes money, what are the, ins and outs. Why is it important not to have a turn and burn mentality? All of those things are really critical, because even if you have transferable selling experience or have been doing something else, it may not be something you like.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not be energized by this type of work. Now, Tom and I happen to be. We love it. These are things, and we've hired hundreds of people who have loved it. But I think it's a really important thing to really understand, what is it? What is it, and why is it great for a large chunk of people? Why is it so amazing?
Very true. It seems to be the moving further away from transactional sales every single day, because with the SaaS model, right, it's a lot about that customer service, a lot about making sure that they stay in with you once they are with you, right, Thomas?
Absolutely. But I think getting to that point with them too, it's really applying the consultative sales approach too.
Yep.
So, that was for me why I was able to transition from, selling, conferences, when you're selling a sponsorship there, it's an intangible product. It's, you got to kind of paint the picture, sell the dream of like, these people will come. But at the end of the day, you constant consulting with them to see, are you coming for networking, thought leadership, branding? What is it? Right. So then when you talk about SaaS and getting into this market, you really, to bring them on board as a client, it needs to be a consultative approach. You can't just go in there and dump features on people, because, those features mean nothing, especially at this point, because it's like, it's just you're just trying to sell me another service, another software, another whatever, kind of bucket it falls into in the equation. And if you're going to keep them on to that long term, it's not just solving today's problem, it's understanding, how their world's going to change. So like basically it's almost like telling a story, Chris, right? Like, so stories in simple forms, they start with the normal, you have an explosion, and then you have the new normal, right? If you can't tell, I'm reading Kendra Hall's Story Stick, right? So this is one of her things. But when it comes to what I talk about with my team really is, because we've made as an organization, we're looking towards more longer term agreements we want people to come on with. So not just 12 months, looking for 36 months, which is quickly becoming the norm in SaaS sales.
Okay.
So if you're going to bring someone on to work with you for the first time, they're going to commit to 3 years. You can't just solve today's problem.
Yeah.
You certainly can't sell them a feature. You need to solve a problem, help them exploit an opportunity. But then if I'm helping you solve that problem, so even if it's just, let's use simple, it's going to help them save time. Okay. Well, now that I'm helping you save time, what are you going to be doing with that time now? What are the new challenges, the new opportunities that you can exploit and do? And how does my solution help that too? So it's really, you got to be consultative from the beginning. You got to start, everyone talks about multi-threading in sales now, like when it comes to decision-making process and units that are there. You also need to multi-thread the problems and challenges through the years. So it's delivering a solution that lasts longer. And then that ties to the customer. So you're kind of delivering the customer service before they're a customer.
I love that. Yeah, the one of the key phrases that I always tell my teams and that we tell our candidates and our grads is, really SaaS is about getting and keeping great customers. So really understanding what is a great customer, what is your target, what's your ICP, what is that, who is that, and then getting and keeping them. Now, Tom is also, what I think is great about kind of our diverse backgrounds is I predominantly spent my world in SMB. So that is a month to month. So you are literally earning their business every month. And if you fall down on your promises, you lose them. So it is really important to have a consultative selling methodology, to really take the time to figure it out, because especially for month to month, and Tom, you know as well as I do, if it's a 12-month contract and they're really unhappy month 4, it's going to be hard. You're going to have a difficult time. You as the sales rep are going to be on the hot seat as well. It's not just customer experience, because again, at some point in the business, usually that top line revenue that coming in, keeping them, if there's holes in the bucket, that becomes even more problematic. So you'll never be able to get enough in the top if it's leaking out the bottom. So it's fascinating because there does become a point where that starts to really matter. And even if in a highly transactional kind of environment where you're moving quickly because they're small business owners, and maybe, you know, you're talking to the owner most of the time, and you still have to find all the pain points. Don't just solve one. Like, just like Tom was saying, you know, you're going to need to make sure that you understand the now, and then where we're going to help you, what innovation we're bringing to the table at some point. So, because that's a big part of SaaS, that we're constantly upgrading, we're, you know, updating, and we're having to serve what's happening. I mean, look at all the businesses now with where we're at right now. How many things have had to change materially, and the way that we're delivering and the way that we're communicating. So, you know, all of those things, if you're really stuck in, you know, when I think about before, when we bought my, you know, QuickBooks, and I put it into this, you know, CD, and I put it in and downloaded it and all of those things. I mean, that just seems archaic. Like, we can't even wrap our minds around that because we're just so used to click the button and it gives you the upgrade. And, you know, this is the new stuff. So, but all of those things are things that we have to keep in mind, getting and keeping great customers. And that is really the name of this game.
And I think, Christine, to build on that too, if you're thinking, first of all, if you're trying to get into SaaS from where you are, you know, you're interviewing with owners or founders of some of these startups or smaller businesses. It's important for you to understand that it's not just bringing customers in, it's keeping them happy and keeping them in the door. But if you're a sales rep, you might be going into a role where you're out there bringing in new logos, but then you're responsible to manage those new logos while you bring in others.
Sure. Yep.
So bringing in people, and they're upset from, you know, you said month 4, but what if it's month 1, right? You know, and like, now you have 12 months of trying to win them back. What's that going to do to your ability to bring in new customers?
Well, your mindset, everything.
Yeah, you're done. Yeah, like, it's you talked about, like, there's a hole in the bottom of the bucket. It's falling out. It's done. It's there, right? But I think it's important, you know, for people that are trying to get in to first off, understand the role may involve, you know, it's bringing on new logos, then managing, you're building your own book of business to then kind of run and service. There's no way, if you're constantly kind of like trying to make up for misgivings in the front end, you're never going to be able to take those steps forward. And being able to translate that to your potential hiring managers or the owners of companies will be a big leg up for you to get into the industry.
I think that's great.
It's also important to understand that when you are getting into it, like, maybe you don't want to do that. You know, then you need to understand who are companies that, hey, I can close the deal and hand it off to, you know, an account management team or, you know, the CS group. That's
a good point, Thomas. Is I'm also seeing that a lot more now is outsourcing different phases of the sales cycle, whether it's the lead gen, whether it's this even closing or now the customer support and aspects. Now, how often in software sales is that broken up? Is a person who goes into software sales automatically handling all that stuff until he gets to she gets to a certain level, then they get to start, you know, piecing some of it off, or is every company a little bit different in that manner?
It's a good question.
I've seen it's a mixed bag across there, but I think once companies get to a certain point and they can, you know, their cost of sale can afford them to have, you know, specialists.
Sure.
You'll start to, like, for example, we have, you know, I run our new logo teams, particularly in our healthcare group. So when we close deals, we then pass them over to our account management team.
Sure.
And they are then supported by a client success group. And it's a pretty well-oiled machine. But, you know, if you go back in time 6-7 years ago, our reps were doing both, you know, and you'd inevitably see people that kind of lean in one direction or the other, where they're really focused on the new business. That's what they thrive in. That's what they specialize in. That's what they enjoy. So that's what they do. And it's great because their new business numbers are going up, but they haven't called their existing clients in 6 months. So it's like, now it's a struggle to get them back on. Or you see people that go the other end, where they completely love taking care of their clients, and building those relationships, expanding them, nurturing them, whatever you want to put it in that end, but they neglect focusing on, the top of funnel front end from that side. So, that's, we've evolved from, kind of being like all in that as we've grown over the years and things have happened from that. Colleagues of mine, friends of mine, people in other business, I know that it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, Christine, you probably deal with everyone and everything in between. What are you starting to see some trends kind of come across?
I was going to say, Chris, I think this is a great question to ask. So if you're looking to get into this SaaS selling environment, that is one question I would look at and ask. How are things segmented? Am I responsible? So some of the terms, you need to make yourself very aware of terms. Customer acquisition cost, that's a term. And you need to understand, how that impacts and what the ratios need to be for lifetime value. There's a couple of things that really are important in SaaS, and those are some of the buzzwords. But I think really understanding where the segmentation is or where the specialization is. So Tom's talking about a account manager, for instance, that could also be called an upsell rep or an expand rep or different things like that. And you are probably paid on, well, I won't say probably, you might be paid on expansion, on taking, this is my book of business and I need to grow revenue by X amount of dollars. And that might be how you're paid versus new customer acquisition, which that is the top of the funnel. And that is you're bringing in new clients. And so that generally I have found those are a little bit different in personality. And they can, a lot of times people can adapt and do both but when we adapt, we're not necessarily doing what we love, right? We're adapting. So it's good to know, am I a relational seller? Am I somebody that also, keeping in mind, if you're an account manager or you're doing expand, you will also be doing customer service. Because I'm going to tell you what, the other day when I had a problem with Zoom, guess who I reached right out to? I reached right out to my account manager. I'm like, Danny, something is wrong with my Zoom. Now he's trying to sell me a whole bunch of other stuff, which I'm happy to talk to him about after I get whatever's currently the problem. New customer acquisition very rarely has to deal with that. Very rarely. So there are some different nuances there when you're thinking about coming into this. Kind of take note. What am I liking? What am I loving? I'll give a good example. Hospitality right now. So many people have been displaced in the hospitality sector. It's been really sad.
Yeah.
However, they are doing very well in our course and they are doing very well in placements because they are service oriented. Yeah. Because they are constantly thinking, what can I do to help my customer? What can I do here? How can I delight them? Not just satisfy them, delight them. And it's such a different experience. And we're seeing some that are more relational and they really enjoy a more relational selling environment. Other ones are like, oh no, this is great. I'm going to come in, I'm going to close all that new business and not worry about that because that was something that maybe taxed them before. It was a little bit taxing. So it's just interesting to know and really be aware of what gives you energy. Yes, I loved solving that problem with my client. Yes, I loved that. Or I got such a thrill after I closed that deal and handed it off. That just felt so good, helping that way. So really taking note of all those things and digging into what is the org structure? What is the design? What am I going to be tasked with? And what are going to be the things that I'm getting the, pat on the back for it and making money doing.
I love that. It's very interesting too, the similarities or the transfer of skills of the wait staff industry or the service industry because it is very much it's a longer term relationship, right? You're a rep and your brand, people will come back to you and buy from you a longer term. So you are sustaining a long-term client. You are very service oriented. You are also a part of a team, the function of a restaurant and the flow of everything. It's a very interesting transfer of skills there.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing too, Christine, I would say it's advanced from a couple of years ago when it was you're a hunter or a farmer, right? Which those terms even themselves are becoming archaic at this point, right?
Yeah.
But yes, when you're a new business, you still are, but there's, now people are moving towards like account-based sales,
Right.
which is also something to be aware of. When you want to understand what are the territories and how is that, set up when you're going into an organization. It could be geographical, it could just be, open. It kind of depends on the stages of their, I guess, life cycle, where they are at development, how large the sales team is. Is it just like Wild West, whoever gets there first gets there and you kind of, all are going after it? Or is it a bit more at the evolved where now everyone has defined account lists? And I'm talking about new business people here. It's not just the account managers. So when you have if you have a 50 or 100 account list that you're targeting as your territory for new business, you almost have to take kind of an account management approach to it, where you know them so much inside and out. You understand who are the ICPs, your ideal customer profiles that you're targeting, right? So, and what are those personas? What are the challenges that they face that you help solve? What are the use cases per persona? And how do those, kind of, where are the similarities across your account base, and where are maybe like the mini campaigns within your account base to go after? So there's a lot of that, more of knowing your prospects, even though they're not current clients, but knowing them in and out. Whereas in years past, it used to be like, it's run and gun. Like, here's my list, or here's my state, territory, whatever it is. And I'm just going down, pounding the list, calling, pitching everyone the same thing. It's much more evolved. And then on the account management side, it's gotten even higher, to Christine's point, with the upsells and cross sells, or expansions, whatever you want to call it, right? Where you need to have that kind of, new business mentality and approach married with still supporting them from a client side. Because, like, to the Zoom example, like, they're paying you for a service right now, so make sure you're delivering on that. Before you're talking about the additional things that can make that service even stronger. So it is unique, but it's understanding when you're going into these companies, A, what is their setup like? And then, well, I'd say 1A, what is their setup like? What's it going into? 1B, what do you want? What are you going for? Because that will also kind of, hopefully will dictate which roles you're starting to apply for. It will kind of narrow the companies or types of companies that you're targeting if you're trying to get into this space.
Or where you want to go in the future. So maybe you're like, yeah, I want to get in here. I need to learn a few things. I think I'm all suited for this. And the one thing that's great about SaaS is, man, every industry, man. I mean, all over the place. So we have found a way to SaaS everything up. So if you have some industry experience somewhere where you think you could add something, that is really fun and great. Do your research there. Do we think, Tom and I both agree on this. We don't think that you have to have industry experience to be good in SaaS. You just have to be able to learn. You have to be a fast learner. You have to know and be able to pick up technology quickly. That is another thing, that if you cannot hang in a technology, we have lots of tech stack. We have all kinds of things that you have to be able to use when you're in a technology environment. So that's something to brush up on, is how quickly, what was the last thing you learned? If it's Zoom's not that complicated. So you need to find something a little more complicated. Maybe it's, playing some Fortnite or something with your kid. So you literally try to pick up something new and say, how good am I at this kind of technology, and how quickly can I pick things up? Because that is one of those areas, there is very little grace period for you. If you don't know how to quickly get in there and start using technology, you're going to have a hard time. So that's another area that you could brush up on before you even walk in the door or do a Zoom interview. You can definitely get better at those things.
And that's such a great point, Christine, because think about, like, 4 years ago, you'd see, like, on people's resumes, like, Microsoft Office efficient.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like, maybe longer than a few years ago. I might be dating myself. But, like, now it's like, when you look at that part, it's got to be like, Zoom, Slack,
Salesforce,
or, Sales Loft Outreach, whatever. Like, you got to have, like, the tech stack stuff. And, like, there are classes you can take if, that's a little different than Aspireship, but you can take, like, Salesforce certification courses or things of that nature. So if you don't have that SaaS background, you still can show that.
Yes.
As I'm saying this out loud, I'm thinking like I should take some of these courses. Get certified.
And y'all planted a little seed for me there real quick too, is you really have to have a growth mindset getting into this industry. You have to be, because the industry is changing so fast, you have to be ready to evolve with it. And if you're transferring some hard, nuts and bolts skills, you're going to have to get those soft skills or those other tech skills to continue to grow and to learn. And those things aren't staying the same either. I just had a great podcast with Justin Michael recently, and one of the things he talked about was Salesborg and the idea that, look, a lot of these tools out there that people can actually build their own sales wheel with are out there, and there's less and less need for that corporate structure, which usually was the only one you could go to that operated all these systems that allowed you to be successful. How do you see that changing now? And with the gig economy growing, with everybody and their brother and sister working from home now, these large corporations doing, and it's becoming less cost effective for a large corporation to have an in-house sales team that's outhouse or that's out of the house. So where are you seeing that moving forward in the future?
You want to go first? I feel like we're kind of similar in this.
Yeah, I mean, like I'll say from my, I don't see it eliminating sales teams at the rate that some other people do. I think it empowers them and will allow it to actually grow sales teams and help market penetration for companies much quicker than they would have previously realized. So if you're arming your teams with those appropriate stacks in there, then they'll be operating at a much more efficient rate. Whereas maybe it was a 6-month ramp can now become a 3-month ramp before they're starting to impact the bottom line. Mm-hmm. But I think the one element that is really interesting about all this, Chris, is that as an individual contributor, as a sales rep, you don't necessarily need to rely on the corporations anymore to have these abilities. And that's where we're starting to see separate themselves. Because there's, to some of those, the gig economy, as an individual rep, you can afford to hire some people from, I'm probably going to mess up the names. So it's like, what is it? Upwork, I think is one, right?
Upwork. I mean, there's an endless amount of names. Yeah. We got Cloud Task, our boy over Amir writer.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and there's even individual, of the tech stack stuff that you can buy as a rep. If where it is affordable, it might not be like the premium top level, but it still can help you be more efficient. So I am not of the mindset that it's going to be like a automated and like AI is going to take all sales jobs. At least not yet. I think that's probably a long ways off, but I don't know. So Christine, did I disappoint by going a different route, or are we?
No, I think we're really similar in that. I think that where we have automated and where we can buy without a human, we've been doing that pretty well, for a while. So if I don't need to be sold on something, it's very easy for me to purchase, but I can do that now. So I know a lot of people are concerned about that. Like, am I going to get into this and not be able to have a future because, the world's going to be taken over by robots? I don't think so. There are always going to be people like me who I'm not having a kind of conversation around ROI and what we're doing next year and all of these different things. And really, I need some help to get me through some of those things. And I want to talk to a professional. And I think that there are a lot of people that are still like that and like me, where we can make a frictionless place to buy, we should. And that is another part to, SaaS companies. A lot of times there are freemiums or different types of things that are lead-ins that give you, you can get this functionality for free, or you can get this and it's going to work to this level. But then when we need to take it to the next level, then we do need to insert a professional in there. So I think we're on the same page. Also with the remote work, and I love having a team in my office. Like, it's just one of those things I like. And I know Tom likes that too. I love the energy. I love all of those things, but we've all had to learn now how to do this in a different way. So I actually think it's opened it up a lot more to to people that are in more remote areas that are also very good. The talent pool is fascinating from people that are just like dynamic individuals to come into this world, that might live in, Kansas City, or might live in, Spokane. The other day, we have candidates coming in from all over the place that are now available, and great, talented, interesting humans that are ready to go and that are available. So I just think it's, the landscape has changed, but it's just gotten more interesting. It's kind of like we double clicked and now we can see more detail.
I completely agree. Go ahead.
Opens it up big. But one thing, Chris, just before we kind of move from this, I do think with like being growth minded and understanding tech and all that is extremely important to your, maybe like marketability or kind of like what they look at. But I think the one key element, while SaaS it's ever evolving and it's there, if you have a solid process that you follow as a sales rep and individual, that is transferable with you from company to company to industry to industry. There's going to be tweaks, obviously, to the people you're selling to or what you're selling them. Sales cycles may get shorter or longer depending on that. But if you can nail kind of the baseline, so like if you nail let's just look like maybe the middle of the sales process. If your intro to meetings where you're controlling the room, you're crisp, you're tight, you can run that around the group, you nail that, right? You nail your closing to those meetings. So you're closing on the next steps, you're getting that consistently there. You have such a tight process in those, you will be successful wherever you go. Even if you're lagging in kind of like, I lag in some of these tech areas for sure, right? But like that is the transferable skill. And that's something that, depending on where you're coming from the, outside of the SaaS world to come into it, is something you can bring to there. So that, back to what I was saying earlier, coming from the conference row where we were taking kind of a consultative approach, that allowed me, I think, to really ramp up and be effective as a leader from the beginning, as opposed to kind of crawling into it. There were nuances I needed to learn because you're going from here's a single event, single dates on the calendar sale to your subscription now.
Let's get married.
But again, I can't emphasize enough how important I think the found process, and that is so transferable. And like that'll get better every job they go out and move to. But if you can nail that forwards and backwards, you're going to be successful. You're going to be sought after.
I love that.
I think that's awesome. One other thing, Tom, and I think you'll agree with me, is also writing. Really important. This is something you can do now, is especially communication and emails. Work on that now. So there are a lot of different tools that you can use, a lot of things to really to get some good practice. LinkedIn is a great place to practice. And I'm just, Tom is a great person. He is a really great writer. And, you are, when you start reading and becoming more aware and practice, that is a place where you can practice your writing skills. And also when you're doing things like emails, very important. That is that type of communication. If you're grammatically all over the place, if you don't have a succinct way of communicating and not making me just be completely confused by everything that just happened, you're going to do well. So like practice, these are things that you can do before ever filling out one application or approaching one sales leader to hire you. These are some things that you could start working on now that will really benefit you in the future.
Love it. And I think the one thing that keeps shouting out at me is you bring yourself with you everywhere you go, every sales job you go. And most of the time in these jobs, you're selling your ability to hear their problems, to understand them, to acknowledge, to be empathetic, and then to solve them. And I think that skill transcends any industry or any sales job that you're in. If you can bring that to the table and you can have a process of conveying that in a way to convey that and layer a product or a service within that, it seems to be that you can be successful in sales anywhere, and then follow through with that, right? And I think that's one of the things that I'm always reminded of, that Sales is an internal motivation thing. If you don't have it inside here, if you're not confident in your ability to deliver, nobody ever will feel confident in your ability to deliver them a solution. And so I think one of the things I hear from both of you is a great confidence, but also how your sales skills transcended everywhere because of your people. You know, you're seeking to solve people's problems as opposed to becoming great salespeople or becoming to get a sale. And I think that's what makes y'all different. And I think is one of the best skills that will transfer over to software sales. Be externally motivated, be internally motivated and externally focused. All right, find ways to do that. And that's one of the things that we teach in our certification programs here. But listen, y'all, this is amazing. I could have listened to y'all talk all day. I want to turn it over to you each, both real quick. You're both such great leaders in the industry. Where can people, obviously we'll let Christine go first, right? Ladies first. And beauty before age as well.
Whoa!
There you go.
So, Christine, where can people find you in Aspireship? Where can they get started, and where can they follow you anywhere else?
So aspireship.com is where you can find us. I'm all over LinkedIn. So Christine Rogers, you can find me there, where obviously Aspireship has a LinkedIn page. We also now do Instagram and other thing as well, because we are definitely trying to find individuals who are looking to make those transitions, or maybe don't want to even, don't want to, the 4-year degree doesn't sound interesting. All of those things are great places for us to find individuals that want to come into this space, and we're excited to help. And yeah, that's where you can find us.
Awesome. So even if you didn't know you were interested in software sales, you're watching this now, go check it out. The job industry the world isn't getting any more certain out there. The more you can be certain in choosing your own destiny, the better. So check out Aspireship.
Yes.
Thomas, what about you, my friend? Where can people find you?
So LinkedIn is always a great place. So Thomas Boccard there. As you mentioned, Chris, hashtag Bo knows sales.
Yep.
So,
awesome.
But that's one place. I'm also a part of a group that's called the SDR Defenders. We've actually recently worked with Aspireship in a few webinars that we've put out there as services for people to learn from. And I co-host a sales show that's on every Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. That's called the Top 1%er Show. So those details will be through LinkedIn. So you can find me. If you're looking, you can find me. I'm out there.
He's definitely, you can find them both, y'all. They're all over the LinkedIn. But we'll listen, let's make sure that we also touch base. I want to share one of those calls you do on Thursday nights to our NASP group as well. So and listen, y'all, anything y'all have for our people, let me know. I get calls all the time. The more I can feed with them with your information and your data, the better. So we'll coordinate some awesome stuff. Before I wrap, everybody, this is coming out at the beginning of December. Y'all probably too late already, but look, corporate gifting is a great way to stay on the front page of your prospects, to stay on top of mind. Who wants to be the first person to get that meeting in January? I do. Nunbelievable, nunbelievable.com is a great company that does cookies. And every time you buy a cookie, they donate a meal to somebody in need. And so great little corporate gifting idea. Mention NASP 15 for 15% discount. Honestly, I won't lie. You can get a 20% discount on there right now for their pre-Black Friday sales. I'll probably jump on that one if you get there first. But listen, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate you. Our audiences as well. Leads to Growth fans, appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe, download, do all the things. If you enjoyed the podcast, give us a 5. Tell us why, right? And have a great week, y'all. A great month. And this is December, so have a great holiday. We'll see y'all in the next one. Cheers.